Hello, neighbors. Bobby Williams here, Bob for Gov, running as a write-in candidate for the state of Georgia for governor in 2018. November the 6th, that's when you got to be there, right? Click on the write-in, write Bobby Williams in, and you've done your duty for the state of Georgia. And I thank you. It's yet another crazy day in the neighborhood. And maybe I shouldn't use that term because today's subject is actually mental health issues. Uh, Gosh, where to start is the question with that. If you look around in a room full of people, 100 people in there, 60 plus of them are taking some kind of drug for depression. That's sick, but that's what's happening. You walk into a doctor's office these days and say anything about being down in the dumps or depressed or something like that, you get a prescription for something. And then they keep giving you that prescription. You get zonked out so that you're able to, get through the day with, you don't even know who you are maybe, but you're getting through the day then. And a lot of it is just very mild stuff that and it helps people get through their day, a little Valium or something like that, I don't judge people for what they have to do to get through the day. We are simulcasting today as we speak. We are talking live on YouTube and Facebook. And so I've got two screens here going on, and I'm not any better looking on either one of them. Okay. Perhaps I could say that since I'm on a laptop and the screen's a little smaller on the YouTube channel, that it maybe compresses it a little bit and makes me look better. I'm not hung up about it anyway, and I'm not going to get depressed about it. So just, if there's anything I don't understand, it is how somebody spins in one place until they just can't seem to make themselves get out of it. And I guess it's my upbringing that did this. My dad was a Marine Corps sergeant, a drill instructor, and you couldn't find sympathy there when it came to most things. He was basically a man up, cowboy up, and get your program done. I know that not everybody can do that. I wish they could. Save a fortune on Xanax and all kinds of other stuff. I don't even know all the names of Prozac or whatever it is. What I do know is if you're eating that stuff, you need to have a good reason for it. Because the first part of this subject today is suicide. If you've been on the planet paying any attention at all in the last few years, you know that suicide rates have gone nuts. Suicide rate in Georgia is up 16% since 2006, I think, or no, 1999. It's up 30% nationwide. So we didn't do that bad when you get looking at that, but still 16% up. And I was looking at the map earlier of Georgia, and it's got it color coded with, basically between something like 10 suicides per 100,000 up to 13 and something, 13.6, I think it was, per 100,000, which is being kind of the worst. And 10 would be the best. And 10 is nothing to write home about. Okay. 10 people out of 100,000. That means just in Gwinnett County alone, there's like 103 people killing themselves this year. Okay, that's just absolutely incredible to me that 103 people kill themselves out of a population of roughly 900,000 people. What in the hell for? What really mystifies me is I would have thought, there you go. You go thinking instead of looking at data. I would have thought that people who lived compressed into a city environment like this were more likely to get, suffer from some kind of a malady like that and actually, commit suicide more frequently. But that's not the case. You look out in Georgia, over 159 counties. The most prosperous counties seem to be the ones that have the highest rates of suicide. And then you get up into the mountains of Georgia, and the most remote counties up there have the highest instance of suicide. And then the rest are scattered around. Well, you start looking at the standard deviation being about 3 between the highest and the lowest rates, not that many, 3 per 100,000. And you start looking at some of those counties up there, and the reason it gets skewed like that is, hell, there's not 100,000 people in the whole county. Okay, so if 2 of them off themselves, then it blows their numbers all to hell. And it's just, I guess my first experience with it was about the 7th grade, or 8th grade, something like that, when a friend of mine named Don Carlisle killed himself. And we knew each other. We had been in 1st grade together and everything, but it wasn't like we hung around together by that point. This was already like middle school or something. And I don't know why he did it. I just know that it got the best of him. Somebody he was dating a girl that I don't know, his parents didn't like, or her parents didn't like him or something. And he came home, put a shotgun in his mouth, and that was the end of that. And I'm sure that didn't help anybody. His parents, of course, he's dead, but everybody else has to live with that. I think that's doing that, killing oneself, is the most selfish act that I can think of. It is the most selfish act I can think of. It leaves people forever marked by it. Even those of us who, barely knew the guy again, So I have learned over time with future experiences in that you never let somebody talk about something like that without confronting it. The moment somebody says, "Oh, I'd be better off dead," or "Oh, you're gonna miss me when I'm gone," or "You're gonna miss me when I'm dead," or they start giving away their favorite things, confront it right then, put it right to them, eye to eye, that you're not going to tolerate that kind of discussion, that kind of behavior, and get them to buy in right down on the spot. There's no way in hell they're going to commit suicide. They got to promise you from their heart that they're not going to do that kind of thing. Take responsibility for it. Push them to commit to you that they're not going to do that. Okay. Call me, write me, come move in the house, do what you got to do. But don't do that. Don't do that. We'll figure something out. I mean, I'd rather be living in a tent, somewhere unpleasant, and trying to scrape by, and than to have that kind of thing happen. I'm just not going to do that. If the Grim Reaper wants me, he's going to have to come and get me, and he's going to need to bring all the help he can get. Okay. No suicide here. In 2016, so the last figure I got here was 45,000 people committed suicide in America. That's roughly the same as number of people that got killed in car wrecks, including the ones that got killed in car wrecks where alcohol was an issue. That's another thing. We have to talk about that sometime. I really don't advocate people drinking and driving or doing drugs and driving. Okay. Just not a good thing. Even driving when you're just too doggone old or too young or don't have enough experience, for God's sake, stay off the road during the busy hours and go practice some on Sunday morning when nobody's around till you get good enough to be out there. I think that I don't really care how many people immigrate here legally. Okay. I do care about some things about it. I don't want them coming from the Muslim Brotherhood, but the people that move here illegally, I think that's a great thing. I think I just want to, number one thing I would ask is that they give them a driving test before they turn them loose over here. Okay. It's just ridiculous what we have to drive through. 80% increase in white women killing themselves since 1999. 89% in Native Americans since that same year. The hotline number in Georgia for suicide prevention is 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-8255. You can call here if you need to, okay? I'm brash enough to talk to you about it. I don't want you killing yourself, okay? The kids that are killing themselves is what's really depressing. Kids and soldiers, okay? As much as like 22 a day of soldiers killing themselves. And we never had this kind of losses in Iraq or Afghanistan, okay? In Georgia, suicides take more lives than homicides, which I don't even want either one of them to be a real winner or a big number, but it's just strange, people, that people are killing themselves. You know, I mean, what does it take for you to kill yourself? I mean, you've got to be at the point where you feel like you don't have any other options. So that your options, I mean, that's not even an option. When killing yourself starts to feel like an option that's going to give you some relief, no, it's not. You're going to blow your brains out. Okay, you're not getting any relief. The Catholic Church says it's a mortal sin. To me, I think it's just a damn shame. I mean, God put you on this planet to do something. Do it, okay? He didn't put you on here to take the coward's way out and kill yourself before your mission was done here. If you want to get punished for something by God, don't complete your mission. You leave kids here that have to suffer with that, or have to deal with daddy's suicide or mommy's suicide and the rest of their lives and everything that causes them stress and problems and perhaps the same kind of mental issues. You do that, and then you go talk to God face to face and see what kind of treatment you get. All right. I don't want to be in that spot. I don't even want to be close to you when that discussion gets taken. Children, 23 children have killed themselves in Georgia this year as of July 18. 23. Now, there's all kinds of things that get kids screwed up. The bullying, the da 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 da. You know, for one thing, we're raising a generation of pussies. Okay, we're raising a generation of kids that never get their bloody nose while they're in grade school. They oh my gosh, fighting. Who ever heard of a couple of 6-year-olds getting seriously hurt in a fist fight? Okay, it just doesn't happen. Maybe they get to that point and they can get a little bit of something done that way. Then the little bastard won't go crazy and get his gun and bring it to school when he's 14. Okay, it's just crazy. And a whole bunch of these school shooting situations that you hear about have these kids are taking cocktails of psychotropic drugs. Everybody in town knows this kid's crazy already, and he's eating pills by the handful every day to try to keep his mess together. And yet mommy and daddy don't pay attention to what he's doing. They don't see that he's collecting firearms from stolen sources or stolen heirs or whatever else, and is writing his manifesto on his Facebook page. You know, it's got to come back down to parenting at some point here. Okay, it's got to come back down to parenting. And I'm not saying that parents are guilty necessarily if a kid commits suicide, but I'm saying that we as a nation, as a society, have allowed our successes and our the career path for women as well to overshadow everything else. And we want to start looking at things like crime and suicide and mental health, and how these little snowflakes deal with life when they have to leave home, and all of a sudden it's just it's not that little picture perfect Disney Fantasia world out there. that they were raised to think about. And, meat doesn't all come in nice little wrap packages at Kroger that, you got to get to move out before you get the rest of the beef, right? So there's all these things are so alien to our children because they're not exposed to it. They don't. I mean, hell, we let them use a calculator to do math in high school. Come on. You send them to Iraq, and they never seen an animal killed, much less their buddy. And then they come back from that, and you wonder why their brains are scrambled. Okay, not to mention the fact that from my standpoint, I think we didn't have any business in Iraq or Afghanistan, don't have any there today. And the faster we could get our forces out of there without getting even one more American killed or wounded is the way to go. It doesn't bother me if everybody in Iraq and Afghanistan is gone tomorrow. Okay, it does bother me if some of our soldiers and Marines and stuff are getting killed over there tomorrow. All right, we need to get our act together and start focusing on what this country needs to do. Okay, I don't mean we need to cut everybody off out there. Okay, but this whole policeman of the world business, man, that got started up after World War II with MacArthur in Japan, and Eisenhower and his bunch over in with the Marshall Plan over in Europe and all. We need to get out of that. We need to bring our troops home. We need to bring them home. We need to train them up. Let's put them on the border. Okay. We don't need a wall. We need a wall of troops, and get some engagement stuff down there that they can live with. You can't be fighting a bunch of drug cartels. You got to wait for them to shoot at you first. If they're on our turf, they're dead men. Dead men. Doesn't take long for the word to get around like that. Okay. And we got some wonderful field weapons that will take care of that. Yeah, that's just wonderful. A lot of them are old and worn out. They'd be perfect for the border. The mental health issues are extended on out from suicide. That's just one of them. You start looking at things that are related to it. Drug abuse, alcoholism, even just heavy alcohol use. I mean, some people, alcoholism is you say tomato, I say tomato. Marijuana, homelessness, suicides, job problems. All these things kind of boil down to one thing: stress. Or if there's anything we've been successful at doing in America since the 1960s, it is building stress in our lives up to superhuman levels. People can't take it. There was a short on television the other day about it. It was a guy that went nuts during a movie, and he was a television person, and he was taking the television out and throwing it out the window. It was going down 4 or 5 flights of the home there in the apartment and crashing on the street. He was telling everybody to do it. So all of a sudden, everybody's ripping the cord out of the wall and throwing their TV out the window and everything. And you know what? That probably would be the best thing for all of us. The average American watches something like 4 hours of TV daily. You figure that up in a year. And if you were studying Swahili during that time, you'd be an expert in a year's time for 4 hours a day. Study anything. Maybe read something about America, read your Constitution, read some, get a civics book. There are plenty of the old ones around. They don't use them in high school anymore. That needs to be corrected. We need to have a civics course. It's not right for our students to go through their education through 12th grade without having an understanding of how our government works. They need to know the branches of government, the number of senators and congressmen and Supreme Court justices, and who serves what for how long, and who the Speaker of the House is, and the minority leaders in the House and the Senate. Need to know who the president and vice president are, at least. There are a whole bunch of morons out there on the street right now. And when you ask them, they know Trump's president. Okay, he's got enough publicity. But who's vice president? They don't know. They don't know. They didn't know back when Bush #1 was the president, and Dan Quayle was in there. They had no clue who was the vice president. They had no clue who I had some smart ass at the U.S. Customs Border Patrol there in Houston when I was coming out of Mexico one day that forced me to tell him who the vice president of the United States was. Huh? I mean, come on now. I mean, he could see that I was an American citizen. So I told him. It's Dick Cheney. That's on my speed dial. You want to talk to him? Anyway, he didn't find the Cuban cigars in my pocket anyway. Just a small amount of smoking. It's things like watching CNN, which around my house is referred to as a communist news network, and it is, or PMSNBC, and it's just news, 24 hours a day. I beg to differ. I think that it's chaos, 24 hours a day. And the human mind just can't bend itself around that so much. Now, if you don't like that, you can go to YouTube and watch whatever else you want to. Everything except Alex Jones, which you bunch of bastards took off of there because he was talking what you didn't agree with. Okay, not that he was fake news necessarily, but he wasn't talking your channel. And now we see on Facebook that Zuckerberg is using some communist system of rating each person that's on YouTube for their quote unquote trustworthiness. Okay, well, that really means is, are you a reliable member of the party? Sieg Heil, And I'm not. Okay, I am not. I'm not a deep stater. I'm not a right winger. I'm not a left winger. I'm not as ridiculously left wing as the Stacey Abrams candidate, or as ridiculously right wing as Brian Kemp. And God help everybody with that other guy that just got into the race here. What's his name? Rod Mack. He makes Stacey Abrams look like a right winger. Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. Another Casey Cagle. 500,000 jobs out of thin air. But we do have some issues when it comes to mental health. Back during the Clinton administration, they messed up and let all these people out of mental institutions that genuinely needed to have somebody take care of them and feed them 3 times a day. And we're going to have to go back there somehow and recover that, and put these people where they can't hurt themselves, where they get clean clothes and a place to sleep and 3 meals a day and whatever else they want. They want to, if they want a cocktail of pills, let them have it. Everybody else got them, right? 60 or 70% of you do. And, there's it goes back to what I've said in other tapes, except for the grace of God. There go I, there go you. You're one of those people, and or I am. And we need to take a good hard look at that and watch what we're doing with those issues. The homeless, a very significant proportion of them have got some mental issues. And they, you add to that any drug abuse or marijuana or alcohol. I think most of it's alcohol, and cheap wine for that matter. That they're doing. They can't stay sober, so they can't hold a job. They can't hold a job, so they can't pay for a place to live, and it spirals out of control. So they end up standing on the street there in Atlanta uh, urinating and defecating in their long pants, and it just runs down the legs of their pants, and they're living in them. You know, I see that down there. Okay, yeah, and it's just not pretty. Okay, I don't know that you can do anything to bring a person that's at that stage back to any semblance of decent reality, other than to keep him out of the road and, you know, at least let him burn those clothes once in a while and take some new ones and hose him down a little bit, whatever it takes to get him a shower. You know, God, if he wants the next bottle of wine, let him get in that shower and clean up, or no wine. Okay, they'll generally listen to that. Marijuana, I've already said in another tape that I'm not a big advocate of doing something or getting behind an issue of making marijuana legal in Georgia. I think it's just another drug that our society is going to use as a crutch to keep from addressing themselves to what they really need to do, which is stand on their hind legs like men and women and get this job done, get this thing cleaned up, get our kids' heads screwed on right, and get moving down the track in the right direction. I was in the third grade when my mother went to work. It wasn't popular then. This was, you know, mid 1960s. Um, and you know, so she was an early adopter of that, and we needed the money. Okay, it was no kidding. We needed the money, and so she went to work, and you know what? Things didn't go as well after that. It was a more contentious type of situation around our house, and we're continued that way. Okay, and she didn't have it easy. She would have had it a whole lot easier if she'd have stayed at home and didn't have to run back and forth to work doing a real job every day while still taking care of three kids, a husband, and a house. But she stuck with it um, to one end. I mean, yeah, I guess she's happy where she's at. But I think that we value these things too much. I really admire the youngest of us, you know, and the millennials for I don't admire them for much. But here's one thing: they get it that they can live in a tiny house, that they don't need to have three or four bedrooms, a two-car garage, and a basement, and you know, a membership at the local tennis club, and you know, all these things, and be chasing that horse, that white horse that's got, you know, all the interest running on it, and trying to pay off this stuff by working you and your spouse into an early grave while your kids are raised by YouTube and Game Boys and, you know, whatever the kids next door tell them. There's a real component there for how these kids are turning out. They really are. So be mindful of that. I think when you go to a medical professional about not feeling right, you kind of owe it to yourself to make sure that medical professional is tasked every day with looking at mental illness or mental challenges, so that when they give you exercise or they give you a prescription, that you're confident that it is addressing the issue that you at hand, and it's not some general practitioner that can write that prescription that really just kind of like you come back in several times a year and make sure that prescription gets renewed so they can chalk up your visits like an annuity. Um, it's tough out there, but we really need to start giving some credence to the idea that it might be a good idea for mothers to stay at home with the children. It's, wow, what an unpopular idea, huh? Well, you'll get tired of driving a little kid back and forth to rehab at some point. You think back on this, okay? What was more important, the fact that you really loved your job or that you really loved your kid and you didn't communicate it properly to them? So it's tough love here, folks. You're not going to get any mercy from me. It's another short show. 30 minutes. Whew. No calls. No calls. Why don't you people call? Well, I didn't put the number up there, did I? Okay, we're gonna get some calls going in tomorrow. I got to do like the Democrats and shield. Get somebody calling in. Remember, I'm not a Republican. Okay, I've gotten where I like them less than I do the Democrats. You know, they wrote me out of a bunch of money in the last 40 years. You know, claiming they were conservative. All they are is house slaves for the rich and powerful that are running the Rothschild funded central banks like the Federal Reserve, and all they just have to kowtow to that and do what Mr. Rothschild and what Mr. Soros and the rest of the people who are just ungestoppt with money are paying them. They own their souls. If there's anything you could have to prevent your participation in this to get out of hand and actually end up in that kind of a crazy situation, it's go to church. Okay, go to church, get yourself some God, get yourself some Jesus, and I think you'll probably feel like it did you a lot of good. Did me. You know, I don't insist you do that, but hey, I'm just trying to be helpful here. Okay, so this is BobForGov.com. Write Bob in for governor of the state of Georgia. And incidentally, we have a button now on writebobin.com. Right, it's bobforgov.com. I'm sorry. You go on there, and there's a button there where you can get to the Secretary of State, fill that out, and register to vote. A whole bunch of you are not registered to vote in the state of Georgia. If you don't live here, obviously you don't want to be that, but you don't want to be that guy. But you can go there, click on that button, go in and fill out the appropriate information if you're a Georgia citizen, and submit it, and you will be registered to vote and get something back from them that says, here's where you go to vote. Here's your card. So got to do that before October 9th or your vote's not going to count. Okay. For all intents and purposes, your vote really hasn't been counting much in the past years. All you've been doing is voting for some cat because his sound bites were good. Okay. And that's just nothing to, forget it. Forget it. That's just no way to go. You need to be thinking. Okay. Use your noodle. Okay. Yeah. Is Bobby Williams mediocre in his appearance? Yeah, he don't like to wear ties either. I've done that all my life. I'm not going to hard to do that anymore. If you hire me to be governor, okay, I will wear ties and dress in suits to keep from embarrassing you in front of the other people. But let me tell you, I hate it. I love my blue jeans. I love my open collar shirts, and so do you. And you'll see me in a lot of Hawaiian flowery shirts. My fashions are by Hilo Hattie in Honolulu. We used to go by there when I had a business in Asia, come by all the time and stop there in Honolulu and go down to Shorebird and get a steak. And then we go to Hilo Hattie's the next day and buy up some goods. But those days are long gone. I don't do that trek out to the Far East anymore. It was an interesting time. My hair was black back then and had a beard, black beard. Anyway, have a great rest of your afternoon, great evening. Go home and hug your kids. If they're alive today and didn't commit suicide, go home and hug them so it won't happen the next day. Okay. I know that's kind of ugly, but for God's sakes, get off your ass and tell your kids how much you love them. Tell your wife how much you love them, so they don't you don't have to be wondering about whether you did it or not later on. Have a nice evening. Yeah.